The UFC 303 pre-fight press conference just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap it. We'll talk about the key moments from the press conference, and there's one specific back and forth that is super exciting. We're actually going to talk about that first. Make sure you guys smash the likes, and if you're new, subscribe. It is the Ian Garry and MVP drama that ensued. Garry essentially exposed MVP. So let's talk about what was said by Ian Garry. So he brought up what is now a crazy rumor that MVP's team was offering Chute Boxe, where Ian Garry is training, thousands of dollars to give them inside information. So essentially it's a bribe. I don't know in the, code of conduct for the fight game if that's completely illegal or if that could potentially get you in trouble, but Garry alluded to ending MVP's career and getting him banned from the sport. I think that's an over-exaggeration. I really don't think that's going to happen, but damn, if this is actually true, low confidence move by MVP. I think right now you had a little checkmate by Ian Garry, at least at the press conference, and you can kind of tell that Michael Venom Page was annoyed. He seemed bothered by Ian Garry throughout the press conference, but specifically during this back and forth, where I think there's got to be some actual validity to what Ian Garry was saying. He also said that it was the jiu-jitsu coach, who's Brazilian, of Michael Venom Page, that tried to offer money to one of Ian Garry's Brazilian friends about getting inside info. The word is thousands of dollars. Now, there is no DMs that have been leaked as of right now. If somehow they do, by the time this video is uploaded, I'll put them on screen. But it's smoke and mirrors. But I don't know why it just seems believable. Like, where is Garry making this up from? And it's not like MVP went to shut it down. He wasn't saying, no, stop lying to the fans, yada do, anything of that. MVP just seemed bothered by it and kind of, I don't know, just changed subjects. I mean, throughout the press conference, he was deflecting questions, and we'll talk about that in another section of it. But MVP then says, oh, the one and only MVP is here to fight in the UFC. Just trying to change the subject, what was definitely an uncomfortable subject for him. So Garry then afterwards, he said that, oh, they should be suspended for life, him and both his BJJ coaches. MVP then said, oh, I can't understand you, Ian Garry. So Garry, what he did a couple times throughout the press conference is repeat himself in a very articulate tone so MVP can understand them. But then MVP jumped and yelled, shut the fuck up, and just pretty much silenced him, whereas Garry said, calm down. And you could see from MVP's antics that he was genuinely bothered. Now, what led to this was Garry saying that he's going to put MVP to sleep on Saturday, and then when I put him out, everybody's going to be screaming. And it seemed like Garry being asked about losing Saturday and how he picks himself up, he pretty much alluded to him being so talented that it's not even a possibility of him losing, that he's going to legitimately end Michael Venom Page's career and finish him. And then what did he say? I already broke his confidence. His confidence is fucked, he said. And then his brain is scurrying for excuses already. And that is what led to Ian Garry dropping the rumor, the conspiracy, the exposed truth that MVP's team was trying to pay off some of Ian Garry's team to find out inside info of what's going down in the camp, which, if that actually is true, scumbag move. And I think that shows that Michael Venom Page is not very confident going into this fight against Ian Garry, because I think Ian Garry does have real advantages. 100% right now, I'm telling you, 10-8 Ian Garry at this press conference. I thought it was excellent. The more I hear Garry in certain matchups talk, I become more of a fan. I like Ian Garry. The mainstream narrative is F Ian Garry, but personally, I think Garry's got some good things going for himself. And obviously, you guys know if you follow the channel, I'm picking him to win on Saturday. Now, the next one was interesting. We're going to scurry over to our main event fighters, Prochazka and Pereira. It was first brought up by the reporter, I don't remember his exact name, but he asked Alex Pereira about Garry Prochazka's claims that he's using sorcery right? That he has black magic. He said this at media day, and that he has, spirits around him when he fights in the cage. Obviously, there is like ancestral native roots to Alex Pereira, so I can see where the Prochazka voodoo theory comes from. I guess it's like voodoo gate. Pereira is using black magic to win these fights. Pereira didn't really answer the question. He didn't say, no, it's not true, this is delusion. He said, I think everyone has a spirit. We're not just a body. And if he hasn't found his spirit yet, it's not my fault. Then it went back to Prochazka, and Prochazka said, no, I'm very confident, pretty much alluding to, I'm not talking about how I feel about my skill set, but rather I'm talking about the dirty practices, like meaning black magic leading into the fight, things like that. And then I put down like voodoo or something, because I don't know exactly what it'd be, but using spells and ancestral tricks and using, I don't know, ancestors to give you like an alter ego. I don't know if you guys remember, but Tyson Fury, when he was fighting Wilder, there was like a conversation where Fury said to Wilder, you're nothing like me, and saying that he uses like ancestral spirits inside of the ring. Obviously, for some of the more secular people hearing this, they're like, what is this mumbo jumbo that you're even hearing and talking about? I don't know. It's fun. Maybe Alex Pereira does got some ancestral spirits on his side, because he's got the native blood. And then at the end of the exchange, Yuri Prochazka like pointed to the side and then said in his name. I guess Yuri Prochazka is Christian or Catholic. I didn't know that, because even like before the face-off, he did the Trinity. I actually thought that Yuri Prochazka was like Buddhist or something like that, one of the more samurai-style religions. But it seems like he's a Christian. Very interesting. Now, more about MVP. I guess I'm going to use some of this to just bash MVP a little bit, because I didn't like him at the presser at all. I've always considered myself somewhat of an MVP fan, but his press conference today was kind of embarrassing. I don't know. He was asked about fighting Ian Garry. He alluded to that it's equivalent to fighting a can if it's not under the UFC banner, and does he think it's an easy fight? MVP, like, he deflects the question, and he gives just a blank-ass, boring answer. He says, I always train for opponents. I imagine they're the best in the world. Okay, yeah, and, like, why not get into the question? Is Ian Garry a can? Are you saying he sucks? You said that he's a can. That's a pretty hot take. But no, I just train like the best in the world. Okay. So then the reporter's like, MVP, how do you feel about Garry saying, beating somebody ranked below him doesn't excite him much, and he's not excited to fight you? MVP sits there, and it's like you're waiting for a second for him to grab the microphone, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't answer the question. They're like, okay, we'll move on. Then Garry was asked a question about being a new generation striker, and that MVP doesn't agree. What is he going to find out on Saturday from Ian Garry? Garry actually complimented MVP in this exchange. I thought it was nice. He said, he's very technical and primed, alluding to himself, meaning that Ian Garry is very technical and primed, that he compliments and respects the technique on the opposite side, but it's his time. That Garry's got the goods, Garry is confident, and Garry is just simply better. So I liked the confidence that we witnessed from Ian Garry, and I really do think in pretty much every one of the exchanges, he won. Now, to Dana White, he did promise 2 Fight of the Night bonuses on this card, which, you know what, as fans, we got to be happy about. These guys deserve to get paid good. And, Brian Ortega was trying to get it to be a $303,000 bonus, which I thought was a pipe dream anyways. Not going to happen. But Dana White said, hey, we'll do 2 Fight of the Night bonuses, because Dana earlier stated, between the main event and co-main, either one could be Fight of the Night. So 2 Fight of the Night bonuses for the card. I would like to see a prelim Fight of the Night bonus. And some of you guys might be like, oh, why? It's about what's the best fight of the night. Let's be honest here. A lot of guys on the prelims are not making sustainable income from fighting. Like, some of the guys on the early prelims probably are still working a job, or they are living in fucking harsh, poor conditions, or with several roommates. Because getting 12-12 in the UFC, by the time you pay out the managers, is not a lot of money. So I would like to see bonuses for prelim fighters, for guys who are not making a lot of money. Obviously, we've seen other MMA YouTubers, talk about it, like MMA Guru wants to do his own bonuses in 2025 and stuff like that. But the UFC should be paying up. And I think we should do a prelim bonus Fight of the Night and a main card. Just, it's like, oh, it's not fair. Is it though? At least do a prelim something. Like, I think the guys on the early prelims that aren't making 6 figures deserve to get some bread. They deserve to have a sustainable income from this, especially if they put on a good fight. So I want a prelim Fight of the Night and a main card Fight of the Night. Pereira, Prochazka, they're already getting bags and a half. I don't know how much Lopes is making, but I'm assuming he's making a good amount. Give somebody in the prelim some money. Give somebody in the prelim some money. Maybe Carlos Hernandez, Ray Teixeira turns out to be a war. Give them $50K each. They need it more. They need it way more. Now, I do want to go back to Pereira and Prochazka. We'll talk a little bit more about them. This was more of a technical insight between the two. Pereira was asked about Yuri not needing to change his strategy, just execute better. Like talking about the last performance, he didn't execute well enough. Pereira says, I think it's hard for him to answer. There could be changes. Let's wait and see. Pretty, straight up answer. Pereira then was asked, what's the biggest key to success in the rematch? And he says he's going to approach the fight as if he's never fought him before and he's prepared for a great fight. So essentially saying adaptation is the key to success in this fight. I like what Pereira said here. Like, it wasn't this super entertaining, roast-worthy back and forth, but it's a dialed-in fighter response. Now, Prochazka was then asked a question. Let's bring up our boy Prochazka. He was asked about how much time did he have to prepare for Pereira. He said about 3 weeks, but 2 weeks of actually dialing in. But that doesn't really matter. He's going to go out and show his best. So he is confident in his fitness. I feel like a question that is never going to be answered honestly, but how much weight are either of these guys cutting? Because if Pereira is cutting substantially more weight on short notice than Prochazka, we could see a possibility of in the later rounds, Prochazka taking over. And I do think that could lead to grappling success in rounds 3, 4, and 5 if Pereira fatigues a little bit. Not saying he's going to. This is a pure speculation, but something that I was thinking of during the press conference that we'll never be able to ask. I wish we had lie detector questions that we could ask the fighters, but obviously that will not be a thing. Next was Prochazka was asked about, he had said Pereira's focus is his best aspect, and how does he combat that? Pereira says it's about focusing in the hard situations, and he wasn't in the best shape last time that they fought, and he feels great now and happy, and Saturday he's ready to show that he's a champion of the world. So I like the confidence from Prochazka. I'm very excited about the main event, as we all should be. It's a good fight. Prochazka did well. I don't know, certain things that he said, they fit. It wasn't any delusional craziness. I mean, I guess it was with the black magic stuff. But, aside from that, Prochazka seemed like he had a cool demeanor and ready to rock. Now, Ian Garry actually predicted the fight and talked about what he wants in the future. So he said that focus and mentalization, I think he meant visualization, is very important. Essentially saying he's already saw this fight play out in his head before. He doesn't think that MVP's cardio will be able to sustain his output, and he's predicting that MVP is going to fall in round 3. So I guess we're going to say Garry's official prediction is a 3rd round knockout of Michael Venom Page. Then Garry was asked about future fights. He was asked about embracing the villain role and if he wants to fight another villain in Colby Covington. I actually really like Garry's reply. He said he hasn't embraced the villain role. He's just being himself. And he called the people out that are booing, saying they're stupid and unresearched, essentially saying they're just believing, bullshit narratives on Twitter about him. He said he will fight whoever is next because he thinks he's going to be one of the best in the world ever. And he said Copington, obviously Colby. And then he said Usman and Shavkat. Those are the 3 names. He wants to fight the best of the best, and he seems, kind of poised in on really jumping up the ranks next time if he wins this fight, especially by knockout. Colby Covington. What are we doing? What are we doing? Colby Covington. If Ian Garry wins this fight, Colby Covington. Nothing else needs to be said besides that. That's a fact. Now, Diego Lopes and Brian Ortega, they didn't really have banter of any kind, but they were asked questions. Let me see if I can get a decent pick. We'll just bring in Brian Ortega right here, pointing to the sky. Brian Ortega was asked about this fight. He said, what does a win over Lopes do? And he was pretty honest. He said, it's another win. He was asked about Diego's skills. What does he expect from somebody that can compete on the ground too? And he said, tough guy, good everywhere. He's going to get in, feel it out, and then we'll find out what type of war we're going to get. Good reply. Pretty honest reply. Brian Ortega looked good, man. Brian Ortega was confident. I like how T-City's demeanor was as well. Now, Diego Lopes, first time on the big stage. I guess, is it the first time? No, he was on the big stage for 300, but first time in a co-main event spot. So he's got a massive fight. He was asked about what type of fight he expects. He said he expects a Mexican grit and great fight Saturday. So a lot of Mexican grit, Great fight, fun scrap. And you know what? I think he's 100% right. It's probably going to deliver and end up being a good back and forth. Now let's see if we can find Mr. Anthony Smith. There he is, the people's champ, the on-paper champ, Anthony Smith. He was asked if it's motivating to see the belt just a few feet away from him. And he said in the past, title fights have blinded him, and he just needs to focus on winning this fight. And he's fully focused on Dolidze right now. That's it. That's his main focus. That's what he's thinking about. And I like that answer a lot. I think that was the right thing to say, because he can't be just thinking about Alex Pereira. He didn't attack Pereira at all. He didn't say anything to him on the stage, which I thought was interesting. And also, I was surprised that the reporters didn't try to stir any pot between Alex Pereira and Anthony Smith. They really respected the matchups that they have forthcoming. I like what he said. He was also asked about his mindset, like the mentality of taking fights anytime, anywhere. And he said that he shows up and takes opportunities in front of him because he could have been the best guy working at the factory. Now he's getting a chance to be one of the best fighters in the world, so he's going to take what comes to him. I thought that Anthony Smith delivered beautifully and really was on point with his answer. Not really anything else worth noting. Dolidze was randomly asked about Georgia winning in a soccer game. I don't follow soccer. That's nice. Bueno Silva and Chiasson. Chiasson said that Bueno Silva isn't like focused enough for this fight. And Chiasson and her like having respect with one another. Then Bueno Silva was asked about it, and she essentially said, I don't not respect her, I don't respect her. Pretty much gave a neutral answer. There's Bueno Silva right there. It was uneventful as far as that aspect of it. I mean, there was nothing to really, nothing really to note on that. That's the honest truth. There's nothing really to note on that. That was what we saw from the presser. Now, I do want to quickly react to what we saw from the face-offs between these guys. I do have, my analysis of the face-offs written down. Just bear with me as I find these face-offs. Let's see. Ian Garry versus Michael Venom Page. That's the one that I want. This is the one that we want. Starting it off is really the people's main event right here. Both look ready, but to me, Garry looks more confident. He looks ready to go. I'm a big Ian Garry believer at this point. He said that MVP is done, and he told him that he's fucked. And honestly, hearing that he's trying to get inside info, there ain't confidence there. I like Ian Garry a lot in this fight. More after the press conference. Way more after the press conference. Garry and MVP were just beefing on stage, and now I see this.
Dancing special, man. Ow. Thanks.
Is it all just smoke and mirrors to sell the fight? Why would ESPN post this when these guys were just going head to head, and now they're posting them buddies meeting his son? So strange. I don't understand at all. I don't get it.
What? What the fuck?
Let's see. Where is Bueno Silva at? We'll find our girl Bueno Silva. I'm seeing everybody but Bueno Silva and Chiasson. There's Chiasson and Bueno Silva. Damn, the true shaved hair from Chiasson. My goodness, she looks like a biker, man. Holy shit. Bueno Silva, Chiasson. I wrote down intense. Yeah, that's all there really is to say. It was intense. They're ready to go. Smith and Dolidze here next to us. A lot of respect between both these guys. They know what's at stake. I got a good feeling about Anthony Smith. He's got a good aura about him this week. I think he's very live to win this fight. And I'm picking him against Dolidze. You guys know if you follow the channel. Now let's keep looking. Let's get our co-main event, okay? Diego Lopes, Brian Ortega, the biggest spot ever for Diego Lopes. Did Brian Ortega not have a really good aura about him during this? I thought he did. Let me know in the comments if you thought he did. I've been picking Diego Lopes, but not super confident, and the hat actually picked Ortega to win. So I don't know, man. If you follow in the hat picks, if you believe in this thing, maybe it's on point. But my official prediction is Diego Lopes, but I could see Ortega pulling through, and he looks damn confident. I don't know. The confidence was on point. Something about Ortega I really liked. His aura was on point. I won't lie to you guys. He seems ready to go, and on short notice, he's got a ton of UFC experience. We'll see an interesting fight. Pereira, Prochazka, let's check those two out. Let's zoom into it. They had a respectable samurai-style face-off. Both guys are ready to die in the damn cage. Both in the black shirts, too, which I thought was pretty interesting. They're ready to go to war. It was badass. Is Prochazka wearing black to fight the black magic of Pereira off? I don't know. Prochazka also did the Trinity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. before leaving the stage, and I thought it looked pretty badass. And I said earlier on in the video, I did not know he was Christian, man. I thought he was Buddhist or something like that. So he has the faith of Christ on his side that he's mixing in against the ancestral religion of Alex Pereira and fighting with his ancestors on his side. So this is going to be crazy. It's a spiritual warfare inside of the cage on Saturday. That was the UFC 303 press conference. That was my reaction. I got to say, I had an idea of what questions to add for the press conference, but you know what the issue is you're not going to get honest answers. I wanted to ask Alex Pereira how much weight he's cutting, Garry Prochazka how much weight he's cutting. I wanted to ask Brian Ortega, how much training have you been doing in the last 4 months, right? Since your last fight, how much training have you been doing? I want to know these things. I would love to have had follow-ups on Ian Garry MVP. MVP, is this true? What is it? He's going to say, no, but you can read his expressions. But you can't really ask honest questions. That's why the reporters ask very A, B, C, D, E, F, G questions. There's no elaborate crazy shit because the fighters are not going to answer with honesty, and I don't think they want to be tried on stage leading up to a fight. So that's why it's the business professionals out there, not the YouTube savagery. I hope you guys enjoyed this press conference reaction. Definitely let me know what you thought of it. I appreciate everybody for supporting. Smash the likes on your way out. If you're new, subscribe it up, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.